I mean, why you always got something negative to say, man?
What's good, guys? It's Alissa. If you're new here, hello. I just want to thank you guys for all the love you showed on my previous and very first Daria video. 1.6K views on a video that I actually had doubts about uploading was the motivation that I really needed to keep going. So thank you guys so much, but I'm not done running my mouth about Daria just yet. As promised, in today's video, I will be going over my thoughts on season 1, episode 13, titled The Misery Chick. My first go around watching Daria, I had a back and forth love-hate relationship with her. While I and many others find her to be very relatable at times, sometimes Daria can just be downright unlikable. So even from the nuanced perspectives that I try to have, I do apologize in advance, but this video and others down the line may be a little bit anti-Daria. This episode starts with Daria's parents looking over her and her sister Quinn's school photos. Her parents are delighted to see that Quinn is smiling and looking happy in her photos. And I'm not going to say their parents don't know their children, they definitely do, but Quinn's focus is more so on a conceited perspective. She wants to get positive feedback on her photos. She even pulled out more photos for her parents to look at. In contrast, Daria lets out an averse sigh while she pulls out her school pictures from her backpack after her mother Helen requests to see them. Daria's dad Jake tries to be supportive of the blank stare that Daria decided to give the camera. But if you watch my previous Daria video, you know that Helen is not opposed to suggesting Daria do something she believes will be best for her. Helen suggests that Daria should smile more when taking pictures because people are judged by their expressions. Daria points out that it's flawed that her facial expressions are being used to be judged. I feel like I more so have resting sad face to where if you were to come up to me and not speak, it would look like my world is crumbling right before my eyes and like I can't even put on a good face to hide it. But like, you shouldn't assume that, because when someone actually does come up to speak to me, I definitely have like a more friendly, smiley, welcoming demeanor. We get to Lawndale High School and we are met by Kevin and Mac. Kevin, the school's quarterback, is gushing over the fact that 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙨𝙘𝙧, the school's previous star quarterback, will be visiting the school and being honored by having a safer alternative goalpost named after him. Tommy is known for running into the goalpost while being distracted by cheering fans. He even went into a coma for 6 days one of these times. Mac tells Kevin that
too much hero worship isn't healthy, you know.
And he's right. We soon find out that 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙨 is not that great. Immediately, 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙨 gives like those people that peaked in high school, show up to random games, and even show up to school on a random Thursday like you don't have anything better to do with your life right now. He says some really mean things to Kevin, who happens to be his biggest fan, but Kevin, being not that bright, didn't catch it. Mac has his back and reeled in that Tommy was not laughing with him, but laughing at him. In passing, Daria and Jane have the not-so-pleasure of meeting 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙗, who thinks that Daria is trying to talk to him casually, when... ew. The reality is that he is disgustingly checking out high schoolers while leaning against her locker. And even after Daria witnessed a lot of Tommy's disgusting behavior prior to this, she somehow felt the need to be polite and say, "Excuse me?" Quickly, that interaction turns sour when Daria starts going in on him after he asks,
"Do you know who I am?"
Daria sarcastically congratulates him on his accomplishments, and I guess Tommy caught the shade because he begins to outwardly call Daria a loser and a misery chick. There's a Family Guy reference in that somewhere. At this time, Jane is amused by Daria telling it like it is to 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙗𝙗. After Tommy storms off, Jane makes a typical Jane-style joke that,
well, maybe he won't live that long.
When Daria expresses that she's bothered that he'll be treated like a hero for the rest of his life. But if Jane and Daria didn't believe in the power of the tongue before, well, they might be believers now. Things get real when 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙗𝙗 dies by way of the goalpost immediately after Jane made that joke.
Oh my god! The goalpost fell! 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙗𝙗's dead! He's dead!
In response to the death of 𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙗𝙗, everyone begins to come up to Daria and ask for her advice on how to deal with it. After the second person tells her,
"It really makes you think,"
Daria begins to notice a pattern. And after the third, she's just pissed off. Daria is getting an influx of attention for being the misery chick of Lawndale High School after tragedy struck the school.
I feel like getting a couch.
The issue that I have with Daria in this instance is that she's upset that people keep coming up to her and telling her that she's always looking on the gloomy side of things or she's always looking on the negative side of things when She literally does. And it's not like she does it by accident. The mood can be very positive, and she will intentionally insert negativity into a situation that does not call for it. For instance, at the beginning of the episode, when her parents ask which background she chose for her school picture, she makes a joke about choosing a black cloud swallowing Chernobyl. Like, what makes you think we want to talk about a massive power plant explosion at breakfast? People literally died. Also, her fellow classmate Jody had asked Daria for her help on the speech she had to give to honor Tommy Sherman at the start of the episode. Jody doesn't even have anything written past the first line of the introduction, and Daria immediately gives her negative feedback on a subject that Jody did not ask for.
Good afternoon, students, faculty, and distinguished alumni of Lawndale High. As a representative of your student council, any ideas?
Jody herself even expresses that she doesn't want to do this, but Daria insists on stating the obvious. Daria doesn't even help her finish the introduction for her speech. So people coming up to Daria asking her how she feels about a sad situation should not surprise her. You reap what you sow. Granted, that's not an excuse to trauma dump on anyone, because Daria definitely didn't agree to a few of those conversations, and given the circumstances, she ends up giving some solid advice too. Brittany feels bad that she hated Tommy Sherman while he was living because he was a jerk. So in his death, she is not sad, she's upset that he made her hate him. Now, I'm not the type of person to think that it's taboo to speak ill of someone that has passed, because everyone has different experiences with someone while they were still living. Now, that don't mean go out your way to be nasty. While you may have known someone in a more positive light while they were still on this earth, that is not the same for everyone. And I think that's the contrast between Kevin and Brittany in this instance, which also makes me question why Brittany is even with Kevin in the first place. But Kevin is jaded to the fact that Tommy Sherman is an absolute creep and was very creepy with Brittany. So Brittany has valid reasons to not like Tommy Sherman. And while Kevin is genuinely sad that Tommy is dead, Brittany has grievances with Tommy but feels she can express them because it is taboo to speak ill of the dead. Whether he died that day or 10 years from then, Brittany is still alive. Brittany's feelings are still alive. That is just her truth. She is allowed to speak it. She just wants someone to tell her that it's okay to say it, because when she calls him a jerk, she immediately backtracked because it feels bad to say. But honestly, Tommy literally called Daria a loser to her face, so if anybody is allowed to throw a jab or two, it should be Daria and Brittany. If you watched my previous video on the episode Through a Lens Darkly, we see that later in the show, Daria cares about what people think, even though she may come off as someone who doesn't. She does not like the fact that she's becoming more popular for being negative. It's like she knows that, but you don't have to say it out loud. After school, Daria decides to call Jane and inform her about the interactions that she had with Kevin, Brittany, and Mr. O'Neill, her teacher. As I'm rewatching, I'm noticing that Jane usually has something funny or witty to say in response to Daria, but in this moment, Jane has become mute and a little snarky with Daria.
Boy, Daria, nothing gets through to you, does it?
What's that supposed to mean?
But this also doesn't come as a surprise. During the in memoriam assembly that was held for Tommy Sherman, Daria tries to give Jane a disapproving head shake to the principal's speech about how great Tommy Sherman was, but Jane responded coldly to Daria. And it doesn't stop there. After the assembly, Daria decided to elaborate on why she gave the head shake, again stating the obvious that the speech the principal gave was not a reflection of who Tommy Sherman was at all. Jane physically cringes at this comment and decides to go home by herself instead of walking with Daria as they usually do. So while they were on the phone, Jane definitely has some truth in the joke that she made about needing to talk, and Daria completely missed it. She doesn't even notice that her friend is saying that she needs to talk to her about what happened. Instead, she is taking it personally that Jane is avoiding her when Daria is just not a pleasant person to be around at the moment from Jane's perspective. Similar to Daria, I have a very matter-of-fact way of giving my opinion. Sometimes you just like to talk because you feel like what you have to say is important, even if your intended audience is not even receiving the message. But not only does it come off as harsh, it simply is harsh. I had to learn that it wasn't enough to just keep my thoughts to myself, but to actually shift my mindset and have a different perspective on things. Like I said in my previous Daria video, this was the first time that I actually seen myself personified as a character on screen, so that means my not so good qualities too. And Daria has many of them. Me being the person that is always matter of fact put a strain on my relationships with people. People feel like they cannot be vulnerable with you because you always have a perspective that does not take other people's feelings into consideration. And yes, while what you are saying may be valid in the moment does not always call for your opinion. The moment just calls for open ears and silence. And in this moment, Daria is so caught up in her own matters that she doesn't even catch that her friend just needs to talk and have a vulnerable moment. Later in the day, Daria gets annoyed by her mom asking how she feels about Tommy Sherman's passing. Now, there was nothing wrong with asking that, and I do appreciate her mom for checking in on both daughters since they do go to the same school. But Daria has had enough of people asking her about that topic for one day. So Daria decides to go to Jane's house. When Daria arrives, Trent starts a conversation about Tommy Sherman with her. But does she get mad at him for asking, you ask? Of course not.
Chicks. Yeah, chicks.
Trent says without saying that Jane told him to tell people that she was not home. But Trent allows Daria to see Jane. Daria immediately addresses the elephant in the room by asking Jane if she's avoiding her. And here you can see that Jane is a little more regrouped after taking some time alone by responding,
Not anymore?
Daria is offended by Jane saying that she just hasn't felt like talking to anybody, because to Daria, she isn't anybody. And here starts the conversation that Daria and Jane have been needing to have. Daria is upset that Jane is avoiding her because she needs to talk to somebody about the events that transpired after the Tommy Sherman mishap. But Jane feels like Daria has been talking to everybody. Daria corrects her and says that everyone has been talking to her. In Jane's eyes, she doesn't see why Daria even wants to talk about it since she doesn't care.
Well, what do you want to talk for anyway? You don't care about what happened.
How can you say that?
You've been treating it like, oh well, another stupid day. The guy died.
I know he died.
Daria says that people aren't upset that Tommy Sherman died. They're upset because they're going to die. In my opinion, I feel like she may be misinterpreting why people are asking her advice about this. I think that people just value the things that Daria has to say and believes that she is actually smart, so they ask her opinion on things. I mean, you can't prop yourself in conversations as the voice of reason and then be shocked when something actually serious happens and people come to you as the voice of reason. Like at the end of the episode, Mr. O'Neill calls on her to ask her perspective on the quote, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all." And Daria is perfectly okay with this. Similar to the episode that I previously covered, her teacher likes to call on her because she is always willing to answer and give her perspective while the rest of the class is not actively participating. It's also interesting how the conclusion that Daria likes to settle for is that she's different than everyone else, but in a different but better way.
The popular guy died, and now I'm popular because I'm the misery chick. But I'm not miserable. I'm just not like them.
That's why they want to talk to you. When they say, you're always unhappy, Daria, what they mean is, you think, Daria. Now this guy died and it's making me think. So tell me how you cope with thinking all the time, Daria, until I can get back to my normal vegetable state.
Okay.
Like Daria, there's a reason you and Jane are friends. You have a lot in common. One day I'll go over my annoyance with people that like to be different but are just actively doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing. It's okay to have similarities with other people. Jane finally expresses why she has been so distant, and it's because she doesn't want to think. She sums it up perfectly by saying,
I've been trying not to think about the way we were making jokes about him dying and then boom, it happened.
We didn't have anything to do with the guy dying. It was a freak accident.
Yeah, well, I don't like it when I say people should die and then they do. I don't want that kind of responsibility.
And this isn't in the notes, but I guess in conclusion, because I didn't write a conclusion for some reason. Remember in the episode that I covered previously where she decided that she was going to continue to wear her glasses because it sets her aside from people, but then equated that to like her having a better perspective on society or the world than everybody else? It's like, how do we keep getting here? So with Jane's explanation of what happened, I feel like she definitely said that to like coddle Daria, because Daria probably would have had like rebuttal to what Jane was saying, like, you're just better than everyone else, so everyone's poo-poo pee-pee stupid and you're smart, Daria, so that's why they're coming up to you. She's like, okay. It's like, no, Daria, like, you are literally miserable all the time. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, if you don't like how you are being perceived, you can change that. But it's like, you like being perceived that way? Look, y'all. Daria is so flip-floppy sometimes. I didn't write any notes or conclusion to this video because I don't know. I feel like this kind of speaks for itself, but that was just my little tangent. Anyway, That is all for this video. Go ahead and comment your thoughts down below as well. I would love to hear them. Let's talk, let's discuss. I definitely have way more Daria videos planned in my notes, so I had so much fun dissecting this one in particular. But if you made it to the end of this video, go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell to stay up to date with posts and uploads from me. But for now, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you guys in my next upload. Peace.